Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the Cabinet of Portsmouth City Council. The bells have gone, so I think we're okay to start. Usual housekeeping things to say. We're not expecting a fire alarm. If there is one, it's real. Meet at Queen Victoria, and we're web streaming as per normal. First of all, apologies for absence. I've got apologies from Tom Wood, who's at work. I think Lee Hunt is not joining us because he's not well. Lynn Stagg is away, and Rob has family issues that he needs to look after. Any declarations of interest, colleagues? Nope. Records of previous meetings, so the minutes. Colleagues, are you happy with the minutes? Lovely. Okay, home energy and efficiency strategy. Joe.
Here's Rob.
Rob, the late Rob.
Apologies.
If you say so. It's very good. Thank you. Joe, can I ask, have we had any requests from any of the other party spokespeople to come and speak on this or any other issue today?
I've had no deputation requests.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wood, are there any declarations of interest that you would like to make as you were late?
No.
So, let's get on to the home energy and efficiency. James, do you want to leap in?
If I may, I'll pass to Mered to introduce the report.
Okay, Meredith.
Sorry, Chair. Are you going to ask us all to introduce ourselves?
Oh, yes, sorry. That's a very good idea.
You can start with you.
No, we'll start with Rob.
Rob Wood, Cabinet Member for Children and Families.
Matthew Wellington, Cabinet Member for Health, Wellbeing and Social Care.
Darren Sanders, Cabinet Member for Housing.
Dave Ashmore, Cabinet Member for Environment and Climate Change.
Susie Horton, Cabinet Member for Education.
Gerald Van Jackson, Leader of the Council and Chair of this meeting.
Steve Pitt, Deputy Leader of the Council, Cabinet Member for Culture and City Development.
Joe Miles Smith, Democratic Services.
Peter Will, City Solicitor.
Chris Ward, Director of Finance.
Paddy Bay, Corporate Strategy Manager.
James Hill, Director of Housing, Neighbourhood and Building Services.
Andrew Waggett, Energy Services Team Manager.
Meredith Hughes, Assistant Director for Buildings.
Mark Sage, Tackling Poverty Coordinator.
And we also have Fiona from the news. Give her. Okay, Meredith, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of the report is to highlight the draft strategy we have for energy and water at home, a strategy for efficiency and the affordability for every household in Portsmouth. The recommendations of the report are the Cabinet notes that the successful work that's already been taken in Portsmouth and been undertaken by the energy team within Portsmouth City Council. That notes the contribution that strategy can make towards achieving the goal of becoming carbon neutral and increasing water efficiency to mitigate the impact of nitrate levels. That the Cabinet approves the draft strategy for publication with the goal that the officers will then consult with various stakeholders, members of the public, etc., in how to develop the strategy and ensure that the results of the strategy and the action plan that we wish to bring back to Cabinet in February reflects the needs of all of our stakeholders and engagement with residents. The Cabinet to note that officers to lead on the development of a detailed action plan which has strategic objectives with timescales and measures to assess the progress and to drive improvement across the work that we're undertaking. And the Cabinet asks officers to deliver a marketing and communication campaign around home energy and water efficiency that can engage with residents in all demographic groups, all housing types, tenures, schools, universities, etc., and to inform and inspire them to take up the opportunities that are on offer. The report then goes into the background about fuel poverty and highlights the fact that Portsmouth has higher levels of fuel poverty than the rest of the UK. That highlights that there are 18,000 properties in Portsmouth that only achieve an energy performance of E, F or G, which are the three most inefficient readings of EPC. And also information around the increase in nitrates in the council, in the Solent, and by adopting water-saving methods across all tenures of properties in Portsmouth, we can help to mitigate the issues around that. Also, I think the report highlights the amount of money that's accessible to all tenures in terms of helping around fuel poverty and increasing the thermal efficiency of properties. The report also highlights the current activity that's happening in Portsmouth and work led by the energy team managed by Andrew. The key areas include the searching out and winning of awards and grants around fuel poverty, working with partners called Agility Eco, who've got external funding from the LEAP, where we can access funding to help residents with low energy light bulbs, insulation, gas repairs, gas boiler installations, etc. And also then the report highlights work that we've already undertaken to date and the numbers of residents that we've already assisted with the work. We also make reference to the Switch website that we set up in 2017, which can help, as I say, any tenure of resident access completely unbiased information about energy tariffs and enables residents to switch if they wish. I say the purpose of the strategy then is to outline the vision, to outline the challenges we face and areas for action, and to set a clear direction for working in partnership to achieve our objectives. We recommend that the City Council takes the lead role in achieving the objectives of the strategy, but obviously that success will depend heavily on enabling and establishing really strong partnerships with all of our stakeholders and members of the public to make sure that we can generate effective collaborative working. In terms of moving the strategy forward, upon your approval of the draft strategy today, our intention is to engage across a wide spectrum of stakeholders in the city to talk through in detail this draft strategy, to formulate an action plan and then report back to Cabinet in the new year in February with a clear action plan with key drivers and measurable deliverables about areas and regarding the areas that we'll deliver in the strategy in the short and medium and long term with the strategy.
Thanks, Meredith. I thought it was a really interesting and useful report. It's good to see that we're taking action. So 160 odd houses already new boilers to make them more efficient and make sure that local residents are who are in fuel poverty have got a cheaper and better way of keeping warm, and all the other work that's going on. It seems to me that there's almost nothing more important than doing this. So both in terms of environment, trying to make sure that homes are properly insulated so they're not losing lots of heat through uninsulated roofs and things like that, that we've got decent boilers that are much more fuel efficient but also keep people warm is really important. And so it's both good for the environment and real practical stuff, but also good for local residents who are on very low incomes. My question really is that with these schemes, we've around the country, energy efficiency schemes have not worked well in the private rented sector, because it might be that the residents there would really benefit, but landlords get no benefit and therefore can't be bothered. How are we going to address that? Because it seems to me often the people who are at the most vulnerable are living in private rented accommodation, and therefore their need is the greatest.
So within the schemes that we highlight and the schemes that we're looking at to implement in future, we consider private rental sector, it's effectively a cross-tenure approach. We have offers in place, firm offers for private rental landlords as well as social and homeowners. We understand that it's a place where more could be done, and it represents the tenure of properties which is the poorest in terms of energy efficiency performance. So we'll look to implement and push forward a strategy around the minimum energy efficiency requirements that the government.
But okay, and I'm sure we'll try to go and talk to them. But how do we get landlords to say yes?
By making it free with a bit of luck. I mean, the offers
Okay,
that we have.
fine. So bribery is the strategy. I'm glad to see things don't change in local government. Okay. Darren, and then Rob.
Thank you, Gerald. Your questions were top of my list as well.
Excellent. So
And for reasons I shall return, except I will not do bribery unless you agree to it. So, it's really strange because we're in the Council of the Year for energy efficiency for precisely this subject, and we don't blow our trumpet often enough. But one of the reasons why I was incredibly keen not to pursue the risky Victory Energy option is because there were so many great things going on already. In terms of delivering energy efficiency. So today we've launched, the team has launched a new website which includes an energy switching option with the independent company Uswitch, for which I know you always talk about income generation, Gerald. This council will get money for every single person who switches using that. That was in place already. It has been hidden, in my view, for a very long time, because of pursuing the Victory Energy option, but now we can free people up to pursue what I believe will be, and the key thing, Gerald, is being unbiased. It's not about prioritising one group, it's around being honest and straightforward, and that's the advice I've had from the officers with regards to this. Where I agree with you totally is that, interestingly, the areas that the evidence tells us are bad for energy efficiency are precisely where the private rented sector live, and precisely where the landlords are. They're in terraces in Fratton, they're in terraces in Southsea. These people aren't necessarily on the lowest incomes, so therefore Labour's idea of giving a grant to people on low incomes may not apply here. But what we do have to do, and the way I think you're right, is we do have to find a way of making sure that we can succeed in offering ways to encourage those homes to become more energy efficient. Because if we don't, we'll be back here in a year and we'll be complaining in a year. And I do agree that offering some form of incentives will work. We're also reviewing the private rented sector as well, and I think that lots of those things will come together. But if we don't do this, we are letting down our future. We voted for a climate emergency, and therefore it seems completely pointless not pursuing this sort of stuff with people who can do it.
Darren, just to be clear, we didn't vote in favour of a climate emergency. We voted in favour of tackling.
I am delighted that you were listening. This is excellent news. Actually, voted in favour to stop it, as opposed to just tackle it, but stop it by 2030. And this is an essential part of that, and that's why Gerald's question is, around the private rented sector is so worthwhile. But we are doing lots of things. We're offering a one-stop shop for people to go to for any energy needs. We're offering a team that can do a lot of work. As I've said, the team has been hidden for a while whilst the council has pursued other options, but I'm sure by freeing up the team behind being at the Council Year for Energy Efficiency, we will make sure our children's futures are better, our homes are more efficient, and we can not just tackle, Gerald, but stop the climate emergency. Thank you.
Thanks. Rob?
Mine's about message. I mean, I've spoken to you guys before. Obviously, as a holistic family man with grandchildren, children, whatever, they're really pressing me very hard, as everybody else is, about changing the world, and they're changing their habits. And you are an award-winning team, and I'm really saying that one of the things that has happened is everything is aligning politically out there, people, and this is the opportunity where the message about our environment, and this is a brick in that environment. It's really important that you guys go out there and push it for all it's worth, because you will get total support from us. And I know on one hand some people will say it swings and roundabouts, but at the end of the day, the people on the lowest ladder, this is an opportunity for them. The people in private renting, that point about finding funding and finding a way to convince them to do it is really important. So as far as the corporate idea, I know you've done the website, and I'm really glad to hear that. I think part of our total picture is we want to be on side with everybody else out there, which is saying, what are you doing to make sure this is going to be a safe and sustainable world for our younger generation? So really, you've got the support. Go out there and do what you're going to do, because you're in the groove now.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Gerald, and thank you, Rob, for getting us in the groove. I just want to thank everyone for this report. As Darren has said, this is such an important area of work that we're doing, and I know from a previous job as a support worker, working with people on very low incomes and who are in poverty, being able to access things like LEAP. The local energy advice partnership has been absolute eye-opener for so many people, and such simple things that can have such massive outcomes, as little as a bit of draft exclusion, energy efficient light bulbs, things like that. You don't know how much difference it makes until they're in place. Plus, of course, all the much bigger stuff as well that they can give advice on. And actually, the gateway as well, for me, one of the biggest advantages or the biggest outcomes for someone I work with was when the LEAP people came round, and then they did a submission into private housing, because the place they lived in was so diabolical, and they have the power to do that. They have that pathway to do it, because it's all part of that wider housing team. And what happened there was that person then ended up getting rehoused because they were a vulnerable person. They lived in appalling accommodation. Private housing then got involved, effectively condemned the property, and then they got moved on. So you can see this pathway. It doesn't just stop at energy efficiency and water efficiency. It actually has real outcomes for people in the greatest needs, and it's a gateway to that. And so many people can access this and ask for someone to just come round and have a look, and they might well pick up things that they didn't even know about. So I think that part of it is really fantastic. I'm really pleased as well about that, the point about the water efficiency. As we all know, we've got this nitrate issue, but also I'm on the Langston Harbour boards, and therefore know what direct impact that has in terms of water quality. And so us concentrating on water efficiency as well, because I do think that often we think about energy efficiency and we think about, yes, that helps alleviate poverty and everything, but water efficiency also helps alleviate poverty, because lots more people are on meters now, so if there's leakages, etc. But also, it's for us as a whole, as an island, where we've got we have a potential, if infrastructure isn't kept up, that we're going to really struggle, or rather the water supply is going to really struggle with, if we have, especially if we have development forced on us, to really supply. So to work and identify where there are potentials for more water efficiency, that will really help as well. And then on the side, in terms of that marketing and communication. So coming back to what Rob has said, not just about the fact that we're so good and we are award winning, but just in ability to be able to talk about these things and make sure people know about it. And thank you very much for these leaflets today. That's been really fantastic. We will certainly be putting those out, and I see it's already on Twitter as well. So 10 minutes before this meeting began, we were talking about this and getting that out there, because having that communication strategy about what we're doing. I just, as Mark's here as the Tackling Poverty Coordinator, I just want to ask him if he's got any particular comments about LEAP in particular, and anything else in the report that he thinks has really made a difference to people in poverty in the city.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you for highlighting the work that LEAP does. I mean, we think it's a crucial opportunity to There's so many people, as you said, that can be referred. We've got a really wide eligibility criteria, but certainly anybody on a low income qualifies for that. And it is linked up with other things, and one of the things that it's linked up with is income maximisation. So work with a particular organisation called Income Max, who can do that over the phone with people, but we also link up with our area housing offices where we've got specialist money advisors, and with Advice Portsmouth. So we want to make sure that along with the offer around improving the home, there's the offer around improving somebody's circumstances as well. The two go side by side. We know that there are too many people at the moment who just can't afford to use the energy they should be using. What we want to do is make the home more efficient so none of that energy is wasted, but actually make sure they've got the money to use as much energy as they need to be doing for their daily living.
Okay, thank you. And David?
Thanks, Leader. Speaking as someone who has been on low income and in fuel poverty, this is much needed. It really is, because you can go through the gas bill on the cards in winter, something chronic. So yeah, this is really good, and it's been going on for a while now. As part of the council looking to help people on low incomes and just help with the going carbon neutral there. It's one of the things we've been doing there. So I just want to again say what everyone else been saying, a big thanks to the team there. It's a credit. No, it really is. So well done on that, because while we need to reach carbon neutral, we're trying to get there by 2030. What I've been keen to do is not load that on people on low incomes or no incomes. So this is exactly how to help it. You can save money, you can heat your home, and you won't eat for your money. So excellent stuff. And yeah, it's just a matter of we need to get this out there far and wide, share it far and wide so the people out there can see what it is. And also I just want to bring to attention, this is also another thing the council has been trying to do is put environmental impact assessments on reports, and this one has got one on there. So this is something that we want on every report eventually. So yeah, it's really, really good. So you can see the social and environmental impacts on it. So just thumbs up for that. Thank you.
Susie? Almost got a
Full house, almost. No, just two comments. One was the social. I was going to talk about the social impact because, obviously, with my education focus, there's so much evidence to show that kids' learning is impacted by being in homes which are cold and damp, etc. So I'm really pleased to see the social impact. The other thing is, I know we talked about it before, about the Pester Power thing, but so many times things go to schools as a tokenistic thing, but I actually think this brings together what Rob was saying. Kids genuinely are engaged with this issue. If we can then use that engagement and that interest to engage their parents and make meaningful change, and all those statements about this is their future, it is their future, but sometimes it's trotted out. This could be a really meaningful piece of education work. Teachers would like it, schools would like it, and it would make a difference moving forward, as well as improving their educational outcomes because they're in war houses. So I think it's a win-win-win when it comes to young people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. No, so I'm not sure. No, I think Matt used your time up.
I know Matt used my time up, that's a different thing. Just wanted to, I obviously completely agree with the comments everyone else has made, but there's one particular thing I wanted to mention, and that is to thank James and his team for the work that they've done with Ian Maguire and the planning officers around dealing with the nitrates issue, because it's been a very collaborative approach in bringing that forward. Didn't necessarily hit the ground running and all on the same page at the very beginning, I think it's fair to say, but it was a really good example of where everybody did come together, work through a really sensible plan and come up with a very robust approach. We just now need Natural England to come back with a sensible answer. But the good news is this is a really good example of where, when you're doing the right thing anyway, it also has a good outcome, because all of that work that the housing team have been doing around energy efficiency has helped feed into that nitrates mitigation scheme and prove that actually we didn't need to start from the beginning, and that's why, of all the local authorities in the Solent area that are affected by the nitrates issue, we are the only one that has a fully developed plan and that is credible, that has gone to Natural England for sign-off, and that's because different parts of PCC have worked together to make sure that that was possible. So thank you very much.
Okay, well, I can't ask anybody else to speak on the basis you all have done, except for Claire. I know you're in mid-apple.
A few points. Number one, I really need to make sure that you don't commission any telephone poles whilst we're here. Number two, could you make sure that, it's online, I just got on the website and it looks really good on mobile, so that's amazing, but making sure we can reach people that don't have access to internet.
Yeah. No, okay, that's useful. Okay, folks. Thanks. I think it's a good report, and I think everybody's in favour of it. I have to say I am slightly surprised and disappointed that we have none of our Labour or Conservative colleagues here with us today. It would seem to me politicians are saying how important it is to protect the environment and do things about climate change. This is just the sort of thing that we should be doing, but they've not bothered to turn up today, which I think is disappointing. Okay, colleagues, you happy with this report? Thank you. Okay, Paddy, Acwind.
Thank you, Chairman. So this report is a update to the Cabinet report from July, which also went on to full council. In essence, it's seeking your agreement to delegate authority to enable decisions to be made quickly, which will be required for the planning inspectorate process for the Acwind DCO application. It's also asking you to consider whether you wish to change your position of objecting to the Acwind proposal, so that can then be fed into the response that we write to the proposal that they're submitting. In terms of WSP, who are sort of working with Acwind to do the application, they have come back to us and just given us a few points of clarity around the DCO process, which I thought I'd just confirm. So in paragraph 3.3, in the fourth bullet point, we say there's a 30-day registration period, and they confirm that it's a period is a minimum of 28 days, but it could be beyond that. In paragraph 3.3, bullet point 6, the 6-month examination period only starts after there's a preliminary meeting held by the planning inspectorate with the examining authority. So the 6 months won't be immediately, and there's no time frame for actually setting up that initial meeting. And then the final point of clarification in paragraph 3.6, we state that the PINS will be deciding the application, but actually it's a recommendation from PINS with a decision made by the Secretary of State. So there's just a few points of clarification. The other point just to make is in recommendation 1, we state that they're due to submit their application by the end of October 2019. At the time of writing that report, that was the expectation. They've actually said they're now expecting to submit 2 weeks late, so that's the 14th of November. And we had a phone call with them yesterday when they confirmed that was still their planned date for submission. Okay. So I think the main thing is we're asking, have you changed your position, and then seeking the delegated authority to enable decisions to be made rapidly to support the planning inspectorate process.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't think we will want to change our position to be opposed to this. It seems bizarre that if you're going to bring an electric cable in from France, that you land it at the southern end of the most densely populated city out of London, and then take this cable all the way through the city. And it's not like you've got to have, I think it's a 60 centimetre thing for each cable, so that's 2 foot in real money. And then and there are 2 of them, and you need a separation of it 3 metres.
2 meters, I think.
Oh, 2 meters. Okay. So 6 foot. So overall, you need an 8 foot wide trench, or 8 foot wide thing, all the way through the city, which is just ludicrous. I'm really pleased that we've worked to try to make sure that we cause as little disruption as possible by not doing their preferred route all the way up the Eastern Road, because we know that would cause traffic nightmare. But and I'm really pleased, for instance, with Milton allotments. They get a drill underneath Milton allotments, but there's still good reasons for saying no, and I hope that that's what we do. Colleagues, I hope we're going to be extremely quick on this. So, Darren, you're limited to 30 seconds.
The scheme is still rubbish. It'll mean closing a vital bus lane for 1,000 of my residents for 2 weeks. It will mean still closing part of the Eastern Road for 3 weeks when we want to try and cut pollution, and it'll mean closing part of Farlington playing fields for considerably longer than either of those. I do not, like Gerald, I do not see the point of this scheme. This remains an answer looking for a question. I did consider it for 1 nanosecond, but I still think the best opportunity is to oppose this scheme, and I think that's 28 seconds, Gerald.
Matthew, 10.
Thank you, Gerald. Well, as a member of the ward where this thing is landing, I will say this I will echo what Gerald said, but more to the point, this is a interconnector cable landing on an island and then going under the sea again to get to the mainland. I do not understand, and I've looked at where the cable's leaving France. It's not even the closest bit of the UK to there. You can go straight onto the mainland at pretty much any point to the east of Chichester, and you'd be closer, and you'd be straight onto the mainland. It is absolutely crazy. And then, though we've been able to mitigate in terms of going on off main roads in other areas of the city, they've said, the one place they can't do that is in Eastney, because the only way you can get to Bransby Park is by going down main roads, which is going to disrupt people in Eastney trying to just go around their daily business, because it's the one area of the city where you cannot go off-road at all until you get to Bransby Park. So all the stuff going down into the Ferry Road area, down Fort Cumberland Road, and around that Henson Road area as well, will be disrupted. It will disrupt my residents. For what? Because they want to, for some reason, get to Lovedean as soon as possible, rather than going to any other substation to the east of Chichester, which is closer to where the interconnector will come off France anyway. So I completely continue to oppose this scheme. It is completely wrong, and I really hope in the end this does not happen.
Okay, and Steve?
Yes, I certainly don't want to change my views on this. I've had the misfortune to be in a very long series of meetings ever since this was first raised its ugly head. It is a nonsensical scheme. Obviously, they believe that they have a business strategy, but the way that they've approached this from the beginning, with putting letters that terrified local residents, making them think they were going to see compulsory purchase their homes, through to being asked very specifically by the council not to approach any tenants or leaseholders on council land, which they then did, to saying, flip-flopping about whether they want to seize Puck Farlington playing fields for the duration of the project, with no consideration as to how that impacts on sports provision across the city. This is a company who wants to do to and not do with, and the sooner they do one, the better.
Okay, folks. Are you happy? In terms of recommendation 2, I think you've got a fairly clear steer, have you not, Paddy?
Certainly have, thank you, yes.
Okay, colleagues, you happy with that? Yes. Thank you very much indeed. That is the end of the... Isn't it?
No, it's not.
Oh, date of next meetings, yes. Now, that was on page 2, so item 6, so can we delete the meeting on the 3rd of December, as we are in Purda? Apart from that...
Can I just say, Lee, that I'm particularly pleased with that, as it's my 40th birthday that day, so it means I don't have to go to a cabinet meeting.
Excellent. But there will be many other things to do. There may be some telephone polling that is needed. Thank you very much indeed, everybody. Nice to see you. Bye-bye.